Chief.
All right, well, let's get into it. Welcome back to SuttonSays. We have a returner from season 2 back with us today. It should be a pretty exciting episode for everybody out in the Tampa area. Brian Thomas, how are we feeling, big dog?
I'm feeling good. Glad to be here, bro. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah. The last episode we recorded, that's when, like I was just telling y'all, we didn't have 3 actually industry standard cameras. There was no voice recorder. It was my laptop running Audacity with my wireless mic system that I use for weddings, a GoPro and a webcam. And like half the video, there isn't video. So I just put up a picture of us and that kind of like closed out with the audio for the rest of the way. So we've upgraded all of this. That was 2022. I want to say.
Was it 2022? Yeah, I think
maybe 23.
It was right around 2022, 2023, right before or after that summer event.
Yeah,
if I remember right. So yeah, I think that's when we got together. We were able to catch up and stuff like that.
What's been going on since then?
Well, there's been a little bit of change. I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing right now. Everything's evolving. It's interesting as like you go through different scenarios and obstacles in your life. That's where you see the most growth. And honestly, it's kind of as much sacrifices that are going on right now. It's like it's what things that I'll need to go through. Yeah. So it's gonna be fun.
We're learning from it.
We're learning from it, staying positive, and I think I think what's best is being able to voice and talk about certain things and talk about certain scenarios, things that happen, and everybody always asks me like, what happened, and like there's a lot of times where I needed to I stayed pretty closed shut from the things that went on. So I think this is cool to be able to chat with you a little bit about what went on, and or talk about everything, from beginning to end, It's been great.
I was reading that you had fled the country and you were flying out and doing all this other crazy stuff. Just for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, more than likely if you're watching this, you know what we're talking about. But as a lot of you know, Home Base as well as CampInn, both Orlando events, kind of bigger scale when you take into account that they're filling up thousands of hotel rooms, bringing people in, setting up entertainment before, during, after, nonstop going on. And let's just say there were some logistical errors this past year to where CampInn, long story short, people prepaid deposits essentially, and I guess many, if not all of them, when they got to the hotel, had to pay again or something like that.
Yeah, so pretty much like, what went on is we take in the payments for the room packages that go on.
He's got a lot to say about this.
And we take in the room packages, we sell them as a whole. It comes with your weekend party pass. It comes with your stay for the weekend. And then, we have a contract with the hotel to fulfill, and we put it underneath the master account, and we take all the charges for the bill. We were still running short on the show on getting to the final the final mark, and what tends to happen is when we're getting closer, either we need to do certain things where we can take advancements to be able to cover certain balances that are needed, so we can get through the stage of just making sure everything goes through. And during that time, there was a big chunk that was just being held back that it just ended up just like holding us from like being able to fulfill the full what the payment was for the hotel. I believe it or not, like from 2024, we didn't even complete our final payment until months after the show. Like we were able to weigh a lot of our concessions, commissions, those kind of things against our bill. It outweighs what we owe, and then we pay the final balance rather than just paying everything up front. I think there's a lot of things that kind of go on
almost
with that.
Like a credit system.
Yeah, kind of like a credit system. So we just kind of cover whatever the bill is to because it's not cheap. Like
can you talk about those numbers? What not cheap is?
It's well over $500,000 for the hotel, like
right.
for the whole ordeal, to just making sure that like every single room is covered, and the event space and all that jazz. What it really comes down to from like the standpoint and this goes back to summer of 2024. We hosted home base at another property that actually shut down and everything else, and we had that cancellation of the hotel sending us a letter, and they just canceled on us. They said, "Hey, we're closing doors. We're going to be like cutting all our staff and everything else, and we're you're not going to be hosting your event." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I was like, "Yo, we need to figure out how to make this happen as event producers. We're problem solvers, and we figure out what we need to do in next steps." We were able to turn around, get ownership involved, get them to move forward, and make them take the next steps on making sure the show produced. We were able to come up with the money. I got it fronted. A guy made sure everything was up front, done, out of the way. Well, the problem was the hotel shut down after a month after, and they didn't pay us out. They didn't pay us out for 6 fucking months.
Nothing.
Nothing.
After
we fronted not only just the room revenue for all of the rooms, and we were talking about summer 2024, and we fronted all the rooms, made sure we came up with the money for all the food and beverage minimum to cover what the spend was going to be.
Before anyone spent anything.
And before anybody spent anything, and then fronted all of the production costs and everything else to making sure everything was going on. We're going to owe another creditor involved with a lot more money because we need to get that fronted. And then also, too, we need to use our partners involved to make sure that we, we're able to come up with what was needed so the show doesn't cancel. And I said this through another I think it was another podcast I talked through, like it could be detrimental to your brand if you have to cancel a show and you have to do everything possible on making sure not to make sure you host at least something.
It doesn't have to be the flashiest, but you got to do something.
It's something, and I talked to so many other event producers who've gone through this where they canceled shows and that stuff, and they were like, if there's one thing I wish we did was we did something rather than nothing. And I think that's where I try and really go around is like, what can we do to make sure that like we have something to go through. And I think there were some important things about trying to make sure that home base went through for this past year, and it was that we at least had the resort and shuttle package, which was important at that point.
So you said you fronted all of that food and beverage spend and all that up front.
Yep.
And what was the arrangement? They were supposed to
pay us back after we met the food and beverage minimum, and then also pay us out our concessions, our commissions, and everything else on July 7th or whatnot.
By this date.
By a certain date, 30 days afterwards. No, they shut down all the emails. They shut down the whole hotel. Everybody was gone. There was not even a person to even talk to even get the bill. To even talk to the legal department, talk to anybody, we couldn't get a hold of anyone, and I was getting directed in a way to make sure that get in contact with who you need to. Yeah, what the fuck.
So that was 2024.
2024.
And that rolled into the 2025.
Well, the problem with what happened with 2024 was that because we were rushing the show, we had things that happened with the hotel and the cancellation of the contract. We started seeing that now our processor raised a little more risk assessment on our account. They saw that we had a canceled hotel. We got a bunch of rebates and chargebacks. I mean, not rebates. We got a bunch of chargebacks and disputes. And then afterwards, we after the show was over, we did have some things that happened on site that were with the show specifically on some capacity stuff, and then that waved in another little wave of disputes and chargebacks that ended up flagging our account.
What happened? What do you mean on site?
We had a fire marshal show up, and he was counting every single person in. This has never happened with us on any other property, and it ended up affecting us on capacity stuff. And we were following by jurisdiction. It was just they were just pissed off that people were just sitting in the hallways, blocking the walkways, and they needed everybody to stand up rather than sitting. Listen, these kids have been at Forbidden Kingdom all day in the fucking heat. Right. let the kids sit if they need to, it's just they just got back, it's
so they almost rated themselves in that one. It's not like anybody called on you or anything that.
No,
they did it themselves.
Exactly.
And that affected your processing. Now everything costs you more money to operate.
So that at that point, it was right around then. Instead of them withholding, or we would hold about like 5% in a reserve. It ranged up to 25%. And then later on throughout the year, at the end of the year, we were asking about getting paid out, and they withheld 50% of our money.
Damn.
So we can't fucking operate on 50%. We tried to. We tried to, but like it was extremely difficult. Like we would have to if we brought in $1 million of revenue, and I just told you like what the fucking hotel costs, and they pay us out $500,000. Oh, where the fuck are we supposed to go? We got to borrow to be able to bring it up for the other $500,000 that they're withholding for the show.
Right,
bro. Like, you know, so now we didn't get paid out from the July 7th. We ended up negotiating a deal to get paid out, and we were able to get paid out at the beginning of January. By that time, they were already withholding 50%. We finally got a payout. We already have creditors that are already involved because we had a front for
They're pressing you.
The end of November. And the hotel ended up letting us signing on the following year for both CampInn and home base, knowing that like we still had it paid. You
signed back with them again?
We signed back with a new hotel for November at the new hotel because it fucking rocked. Like, let's be real. Home base in November at the new property was absolutely sick. Like, you know, it was the best property layout. The hotel rooms were super nice. The ballroom spaces were adequate for exactly what we needed. They had a great organization system on staffing, the bar system, the overall management was absolutely great, fantastic. It threw in and out. We had a whole operation there, and obviously we were going through our first time of doing a deal with this hotel, so obviously we're gonna have some struggles on like financial portions of stuff, but like, you know, understanding the full cost of everything, and then two is like understanding the whole property on like what we can and cannot do, and what we can really execute with what the true vision was with it. So yeah, that's I mean, November went fucking awesome.
This was this past November.
We're talking about 2024 still.
24.
That
one went well. And then what happened? Did we just get backed up? We had no more creditors we could use going into.
So when we talk about like we talk about specifically going into CampInn, like, you know,
CampInn of 2025.
Yeah. So fast forward, we made a deal.
Not that forward.
That's
a couple of months.
Yeah, that Labor Day weekend. Like, honestly, first we announced, and then we found out there was another festival on the same weekend. we both called each other and we were like, "Wait, shit, you decided that weekend?" And he was like, "No, you decided that weekend." I was like, "Yeah, man." Like,
what was the other festival that weekend?
It was Metamorphosis that weekend. And I was like, well, I guess we're both, we're going at this because like I already signed the contract with the hotel. You know, you guys already have your deal going on. So
I'm not moving.
Yeah.
You guys might want to move it, but...
you know. And really, I looked at it as like, it's two different audiences. Like, you know, I really thought like, you know, honestly, it could complement each other very well. And then also too, like I do know that CampInn has sold out every year. You know, when we did, and I've been producing it for the 3 years that it came from fruition, from vision, from going from a PowerPoint like presentation to like executing and doing 3 years back to back. And then from actually like, you know, into, you know, resurrecting it, you know, back and reproducing it.
Yeah.
You know, I was technically, my title was a reproducer. The reproducer.
So we had some issues with the resort, and now we're a higher risk. Did that have an effect with everybody booking the rooms for CampInn 25? Is that why the double charge thing happened, or was it unrelated? Yeah, so there was needed to be an estimated balance that needed to be paid before the hotel, like, you know, before the doors open. The hotel and I were in straight up communication leading through everything, and I was letting them know that we're working through our difficulties, which were getting our payment processor to release some more of the money that was in reserve make the payments that were needed. 2, talking with creditors on being able to cover what the balance is, and, you know, at least making it closer to the mark that we need to, and then we could weigh against our concessions and whatnot.
that. 3, it was like, you know, weighing in, you know, amount of anticipated revenue into like where we're going to land at. But the problem was, A, we're on a new weekend. 2, it's reproducing again, starting from the ground up. And 3, it's a big fucking hotel.
The numbers just weren't looking good. And you were upfront about that with the resort.
Yeah, absolutely. I was upfront with you know, where we're at, exactly the rooming list, exactly what we're doing leading into the show, and we're making sure that like, you know, at least we're in communication. Hey, we're gonna be on site, and like hey, we're gonna make sure we got a payment at the beginning of the week. We had gotten him a pretty large allotment, and that was deposited in. At the end of the week, we were working on getting a secondary payment. And this is where it got rough, was that we're waiting on one payment. And then, I kid you not, I got a call, and it was from the front, and a guest was up front, and they said, hey, I want to cover the entire bill. I was like, does he know that it's over 300,000? And they were like, yeah, he knows. I was like, what the fuck? I was
How'd
like,
that even come up?
Who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, and it came from the beginning, when the front desk was telling people that we did not cover, we didn't pay the balance, like, you know. And when they were selling that to the guests, I guess there was one guest that was checking in with somebody else, and he was like, you know, that's totally unprofessional, and I want to talk to somebody, and I want to talk to who's in charge, and I want to pay the bill,
just so everybody doesn't get screwed.
Yeah.
That's community.
That's community. Cool. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
So,
like, you know?
So did he pay it?
So that's where it comes in. That's where it comes in. It comes into play. The dirtiest bird of all. What was
that guy?
Was this guy?
Yeah,
this guy.
You gotta check that red flag when he's like, you know what, I just want to pay it.
And the thing is, I got pulled in the back office with management, and they shook his hand, and they said he was going to make the payment.
Okay.
The hotel opened the doors, and we started building production.
And it was just good.
I kid you not.
Off of this dude just being like, nah, I got it.
Yeah.
He didn't put any money down. He didn't swipe a card.
He got on the phone with his bank. He did it in front of it. Yep. And they said that they were going to talk in the morning.
And then what? He just called the bank and was like, hey, I was kidding. Please
don't
process
man,
that.
I'm telling you, that's the craziest thing that happened. And I saw the guy throughout the entire weekend, and he said, yeah, it's going to go through. Everything's going to be fine. You know, and I already knew. I was like, well, if this guy made the payment, I'm not going to send them. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. Wait till fucking Tuesday, until Labor Day. And like, let's see if it actually goes through. And then, if it doesn't, then I have the money to cover it,
And then what happened?
It didn't go through. Nobody saw it. Like, they didn't,
All right.
And on Tuesday, it rolled around. I talked to the hotel. They said they didn't see the money account. I went to the bank. I sent the money, and then I'm sitting in the front, and I had two guests. They were talking to me about everything. They were pissed about the double charge. They got charged, and at that point was somebody came in and they were like, yeah, we haven't received the money. I was like, to go double check, and they went and double checked. They came back and they were like, damn, we got to refund all these guests. And he shook that guy's hand that was an attendee, and he said they've completed what they needed to do, and we're gonna refund all the guests. And I was like, okay, all right.
I'm just gonna assume you're gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume we're gonna do that. And I was like, I'm gonna stay at this hotel until you guys do that. And that's where it went into. It was, I waited for one of the financial people to come back, and they said he wouldn't be in until next Wednesday because he's on fucking vacation. Who goes on fucking vacation when their largest events coming there? Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I waited until pretty much the deadline. They still weren't completing the refunds. Everybody was being told they weren't going to be refunded. It's turned into a whole mess where everybody's pointing at each other. Who's going to refund? Are we going to refund, or they're going to refund? And the biggest issue was from that whole point is that I can't refund directly to homeboy who showed up. He paid us. He had his friend put down his card. His friend got charged. We got charged. We got his money. Now, how do we refund his friend who got charged from the hotel? It's difficult.
Now you're paying out money that you technically don't know.
We really don't have any verification on who exactly got charged because they wanted to sign a release to be able to, run those refunds. So yeah, it was a nightmare. Like, it's a nightmare for anybody because like now what we needed to decide was, are we going to go back and forth and try and figure this out, or are we going to make the decision of just like start doing the refunds based off of what we had that was available and start going down the list, which we have people start turning in their receipts. We process the refund that way. 2, the people that got charged directly that we don't have access to their card, the money's is caught up with the processor, so we can't refund those people directly, so they got to wait. And they're
not
still
trying
waiting,
to hear that.
And it's just it's frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody, and they don't want to wait. That's where it came down to.
The internet was tearing you up at that point too, while you were at the resort.
Bro.
Right? Yeah, no, I saw it. They were on you.
And the issue is like when the control of the conversation starts going towards everybody else that's not in the mix of everything, then they start getting mixed information. Then they start getting involved.
Oh, it was a telephone game.
Oh, and it created the situation even worse. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got home from Orlando, and it was like on the 12th or something, I was starting to get on calls with people who were involved. Everybody who was involved internally on the show, and then I was starting to get people that were involved with my business and starting to how do I explain this? People's colors truly show when things are going down, and on who you can trust, on understanding that we're problem solving through a situation. And I was getting to the point where I was almost getting taken out of the ring of being in ownership of handling my business.
You were the scapegoat, and everybody just decided it's easier for me to just turn and say, hey, nah, it was him. I didn't have any involvement with this.
That's one thing, but we started having a thing of like, Brian's not the owner of the company anymore, and we're going to be doing home base.
Who is we?
Exactly.
Yeah, like,
and that's when I started getting to a point, and then I was starting to get discussions about getting about ownership changing and this and that. That's where it started getting really testy. It was like I was like, am I really going to give up my entire company? Am I going to really give up everything I worked for? I mean, I've been growing this project for over 10 years. Like, it's not just the electric forest buses. This isn't just the Gasparilla buses. This is me doing events since I was like 17 years old.
You could say 20 years damn near.
Yeah, 20 years. I mean, I'm getting fucking old at this point. Yeah. And really, like, I just I was coming to the realization, like, at the end of the day, I am home base. Like, I've done this whole thing in and out. I know the whole thing in and out. And then when people try to produce it, they were like, I'm gonna go produce it. And then they started contacting the hotels. They're like, dang, we actually need Brian to like do the hotel thing,
to do it right.
And that at that point we started getting that was like, the hotel wanted us, hey, we're not doing the show, like we're already in a dysfunction from CampInn, like, right. There's so much going on already, and they canceled our contract for November, and at that point, that's when we had to make a decision of like, okay, all right, we got to figure out what's next. And I'm dealing with the whole thing of ownership and like, people that were already heavily involved.
When did they cancel for November? Like right before, or did you have like 2 months or?
What was it? It was voiced to me that was canceled, and then it wasn't even in writing for a hot minute. So you thought it was, and then there was no real like official, like, there's some official things that you kind of need to do in a sense of just like that are needed to making sure that the agreement's like,
it's not that simple to say, hey, it's just done.
It's not that simple. and really too, like for us, we're just like left stranded. Okay, so what do we need to do to give it to, you know, find everybody, you know, a new place to stay?
Yeah.
And that's when I already had people involved that were trying to find a place to stay, and I got involved, and then I finally found a place, but then it didn't meet the expectations of the after parties and this and that, and I was like, guys, like we need to give these people just a place to stay and shuttles and lodging for the time being, and we'll work around all the rest of the mix.
Bare minimum.
Rest of the mix. At least, you know, I'm talking about. I've done it where I've done a bus trip where I've taken people up to Atlanta. We had like 3 bus loads, and we had a private party inside the presidential suite upstairs, and it was a great time. Like, you know,
right.
We've done it where we've done private parties off site and like done it in a nightclub off site. There's ways of doing certain things. Obviously, it's not the main like, you know, trailer of like what home base is, but you know, it was at least something rather than nothing was what was really important to us. What was really important to me, but unfortunately the people that were involved at the time, it was very important for them to have more extreme like numbers of single day tickets, all that jazz.
Right.
Those contracts need to be done a year in advance. It's very difficult to find any place in Orlando that will run till 5, 6, 7 a.m. in the morning at a mass level,
knowing
like fucking home base. Like, I mean, I'll be for real with it. Like,
knowing,
you know,
how the guests are, knowing that like this is a crowd they're cool people, they're good, but they're gonna be up the whole time.
Yep.
There's always going to be something going on, and that's a lot to kind of sign up for. With you guys having the 2024 kind of headaches, that had to really affect your marketing and whatever production plans you had for CampInn as well as Homebase, I'm guessing. Were you trying to maybe scale back, or like was marketing not hitting as hard and that affected sales, or...
You know, when you're growing an event back to from the first like steps up, like, you know, even to like we did that home base summer event. It was with the Forbidden Kingdom for the first time. We didn't do astronomical numbers, and we were really building with that crowd. I tell you what, by the end of after that show was over, we still got a shitload of people that hit us up about doing FK again, and honestly, like the first show should have probably been a little smaller. Then we grew it bigger, and then built it into a bigger resort. I think that hotel, I think FK was I think it, like when I resemble on that, like, you know, starting small and building up bigger, which I've heard from advice from certain people. It's like, stay small as long as you can. Yeah. And the hotel that we have been currently at is, you know, it could be big for many different groups, conferences, anything like that.
Right.
And I think it's important to reflect off of that. And I gotta say, like, there's a lot of things going on over that weekend. There's definitely a lot of things going on with, you know, you know, with another show going on, you know, and honestly too, I think the community is rebuilding and regrowing back together in a certain sense. It's a
crowd in the scene's in a weird place for sure.
I could say that, like, honestly, it was like such a killer time on the dance floor. The vibe was I gotta say, it was certainly right. Everybody was partying, everybody was having a great time.
Right.
I think it was all right there on everything.
No,
if we didn't have all the disputes and chargebacks and all the shit that went down, I think we would have came out with a pretty fucking A+, you know, ordeal of just like,
I'm listening.
It was a blast. It was a great time. Yeah, we had a little bit of things with production that were building up that didn't get completely built. There were a couple of things, you know, that were still growing on site, but like there was some issues with what was going on, you know, with us working with that property for that first time weekend, you know.
Okay, so we follow up all the, I guess we'll call it action from CampInn. You were still able to pull that one off and make something happen in 25.
Yeah, we're trying to make things happen for home base in 2025, and we ultimately canceled. You know,
that one canceled, but CampInn happened.
CampInn happened.
How did you feel about the outcome of that one? What was?
It was a sick event. Like,
that was good.
Yeah.
So you were still pretty confident that home base was gonna be okay, or was that just a whole separate?
I was
entity?
confident everything was going to be okay because we had a contract and we were going to be moving through with like we had people that were involved that were like ready to front what we needed to making sure that like the show went on, and obviously there's just the whole dispute of everything going on.
Was it the same guy that wanted to pay? He was just like, you know what? I got you on home base too, Brody.
The guy's name's Smith. Yeah.
Can you say his name?
It's just too much.
Reddit's gonna have his name 18 minutes after this video comes out, so it doesn't matter. But
yeah, it's just
kids don't play.
It's just so frustrating about the whole situation, and this guy has the audacity to reach out to me afterwards, like, Brian, I'm the only one that could save you. And like, listen, I got your back for anything that you need. I see everything going on. I was like, what the fuck? It's just,
what?
Bro, don't talk to me again. I don't need to say it.
Is he a hit, like just one of those super hippie, like not all there?
Hey, bro, I don't know how to explain this guy, like, really. And
no, you explained him.
Honestly, I don't think he was there for just that show. He got introduced to somebody. He met him at the airport. He rode in with him, went to the front desk, and he said he was going to be covering the bill and everything else. And listen,
this man's name was Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
he just did everything.
Yeah. It was a lot.
All right, so he wasn't involved with home base, but
his name was Miguel Sosa.
Big Sosa.
Miguel Sosa.
You're just throwing it out there. You're sick of it.
The dirtiest bird of all.
Yeah. He kind of. Are you? I mean, I'm not saying you're saying it, but he's essentially what blew up the whole weekend. Because if he didn't say, "Oh, I'll just pay for all of it," and get them to confidently move forward, I guess it never would have went down like that, or what?
Hey, honestly, like if I never had the introduction to him, I would have been already proceeding with what I needed to, and not like getting drifted off off guard to like speaking with somebody.
Yeah.
Who said he was going to cover the bill? Like,
yeah,
like, bro, like, and then this guy gets on the phone with his bank and talks. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And then how far out in advance from home base were you like, yeah, I think I might have to actually cancel this. I can't pull this off. Did it take all the way to the last minute?
So after everything went on, I mean, like I said, like I was just running in through a lot of things that were fires within internally in my business. Then I had people that were that wanted to take ownership of my business, and then people were talking about buying it out and everything else. But like, the issue was they were like, listen, you can't make an announcement and communicate with anybody until we finalize everything. That delays my communication with everybody. Now I'm not communicating with everybody. Now everybody's freaking the fuck out.
That's when they said you were on Epstein's Island. You were at the Diddy parties,
bro. Like it was just too much. Listen, I was in Tampa at my house trying to navigate how we're gonna make sure that like we get payments for pushing forward on the show going on.
I literally would read on the internet. They're like, Brian Thomas is running away in Colombia. He's on the Epstein flight logs, and then you walk into 511 on a Sunday. And I'm like, wait, aren't you supposed to be at Epstein's Island, dog?
Yeah, and it's just like
that's the telephone game. Everybody just adds a little bit to the story,
adds
and
onto it,
some stuff. But
and then a lot of people just didn't realize that they got the refunds and it didn't confirm going through. It was just already all a mess.
They were seeing red. So when they're that mad, they're not actually looking for a resolution. They just want to be mad and like have someone tell them like, yeah, they're right. Like, be mad.
Yeah.
But what could you have changed or done differently, you think, during all that? Was there anything else, or? I
mean, I wish I was able to communicate. Like, I should have just communicated right off the bat. Like, as soon as as soon as like we're on pause, we communicated that I'm trying to make sure that I got everything right. It was the 10th or 12th was when I headed back to Tampa, and then I was like, okay, we need to start making like some communication going on and saying, hey, this is when to make the to next steps. But the issue was we were already starting getting chargebacks and disputes, and then because of the chargebacks and disputes, we started countering some of them because we were like, "Hey, we're not going to be doing the refunds," and we had not gotten that communication with the hotel deciding who. So we need to start like at least doing the chargebacks through, and then some of those people didn't get a decision made for 30 to 60 days after, and they were all freaking out on the internet until the 30 60 days was completed,
right,
on the ordeal. And it's just all a mess. If I knew like what was going to proceed moving forward beyond that, and like what was going to freeze up like all of our reserves and our funds, then I think it would have just been point blank canceled completely. But I think we both knew it was going to be just as devastating if we canceled right there and then, and canceled leading in. It was just almost as equal amount. Like,
right.
I was working through every possible scenario to making sure that that home base happened for that EDC Orlando weekend, and I went through almost every outlet, and I asked every person that I've ever worked with, and just asked them what would they do. What do you think I should do? Talked about what could happen, and I looked at it. I exhausted every single route up until the Wednesday. The Wednesday was my final decision, and that next morning I made the call. I was like,
put
the announcement out. The announcement out. We had to cancel completely, and we're gonna refund all the guests.
So at least with home base, with you canceling it, it was just refunding essentially anybody that had paid. But with CampInn, you had production expenses, security expense. There was a lot more expenses involved. Is all that already cleared up, or are we still fighting that too?
No, we're still sitting on all that. That's the whole thing.
And what exactly is all that? Are you allowed to say it? Like, what is still unpaid?
There's still.
Let's get the mic up a little bit.
Yeah. There's still DJs, there's still security, there's still staff, and there's still there still is refunds that still need to be completed.
Guest refunds.
Yeah, guest refunds.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and really there comes a blend between the two shows. There's CampInn and home base, both of everything's all together, and it's both in the same account. And when we got chargebacks from CampInn, and somebody's winning the chargeback, and they're getting $3,000 back on their entire package rather than the $600 that they paid at the hotel, well, guess what? Now it's like taking out of what. Now we're cutting down on what we have, and that's where everything comes into the mix of the issue there.
Yeah.
So. We have a lot of money that ended up with a lot of the refunds, and we have a lot of the money that's like, it's just it got paid out on what was owed on what we needed to do for the show.
And it's going to be kind of hard to make money back in events when you can't really throw events. There's no upfront funding. Obviously, the brand itself probably took a little bit of a hit there. So. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's like we have to wait. We have to wait because we still haven't gotten the final master bill. We still haven't gotten completed exactly all the numbers back from exactly the hotel, and we're still waiting until this day. And the reason is that we're given is because the chargeback challenges have still not been completed. And we patiently wait.
Right.
And that's all we can do right now. And if it gets to a point where we need to take another step further, then we need to take another step further. But what's most important is right now we're patient. We've been understanding. We've been discussing with everybody that's within our team on what's been going on, and giving them updates. And all we could do is communicate and go through this process. And when we need to take it a step further, then we discuss next steps from there.
All right. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from all this, or the biggest, I'd say, lesson you learned?
My biggest takeaway is, I think it's so important to making sure that communication is so clear right off the bat when something's going down, and I think that's where things went seriously wrong right off the bat. And I know I've worked with so many events on this. I think there was just a lot of cloudiness that got involved that ended up hazing where I can make clear decision making, right. and I won't ever let that affect that again, because I have to move full speed in what needs to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, clear communication. If we made a statement right off the bat on next steps, I think it was a little too late, and we ended up we missed that ballpoint on that. So
I do think we've tried to joke a little bit and keep it kind of light, but this whole situation has not been funny. Like, people getting their money messed up like that, and we know how a lot of that crowd is. Like, they can go really over the top when they feel a certain type of way about things. You do have to find some humor in it, in some of your experience. What was the funniest meme or roast did you see on the internet when the internet was saying you were everything? You were on the flight logs. You were the Diddy parties was a funny one to me.
Oh my gosh, I mean, it's just all is so much. I mean, there's just like everybody's like, oh, he fled the country. He spent all the money in this place, that place. There's nothing really like, because the biggest thing is all these other rumors that went through that I couldn't defend myself because my name was already affected by everything.
They were doxing you pretty hard.
It was that I couldn't defend myself, and like nobody like at that point was like, it really was like having my back at that point, and then really was. It was affecting everybody else. Like, right. That's the biggest thing. Like, when somebody goes and put a post up about, Brian's doing all this, boom, to 50, 60, 100 people hit that. Now they're hitting up their friends. Hey, you should be worried about what's going on with HP. Now, guess what? When they go and charge back our show saying that home base is canceled, it's not that we're getting one dispute. Because they're on a payment plan, we get 10 disputes.
Right.
So with 10 chargebacks at the same time, like, we're now getting into like some pretty aggressive like red lines on, how many disputes and chargebacks we're dealing with at that point.
And for those that don't understand payment processing, you start getting disputes and a bunch of cancellations, refunds, stuff like that. The credit card company is basically going to say, we don't trust you. We don't trust the business practices going on. And we're not going to keep taking in money and giving you a good rate on how much we're processing your payments for. We're either going to hold a bunch of money just to make sure that all this stuff actually happens and you're not a scammer, or we're just going to kick you off the platform, essentially. They can do that. I don't think they kicked you off of any platform.
They have not kicked us off of any platform
because you have
we're communicating, we're discussing what's going on, we're getting updates as we go along through the process, and that's all we can do. And one of the biggest factors is like, where's our final master bill? It's the rest of the commissions, the rest of the rebates. What are we owed? How are we going to clean up all the mess that happened, and how do we take the next step forward? And I think that's what we're going through.
Yeah,
and it's not a short process.
Sounds like it's a bitch.
Yeah, and I really like I think a lot of this really it didn't just like come on the company name, then it came onto me, and I think it just got a little aggressive. It got a little aggressive, and it
got hot.
It shut everything down. So it's just we're dealing with what we can right now.
It was real hot on the internet, yet you still found ways to handle the problems, get it all done. But you weren't running from anything. You were on site when it was first happening, when people said you fled the country. Yeah. And you were just kind of handling it head on. And then you were going around, like, essentially downtown town. I saw you at Emberd. I saw you at 511. And you're very open about addressing it, having no problem from running from it. Why do you think the community got so heated?
I think it was because
you had trust. People trusted the brand. People have been riding with you for a while.
Home base is like is we've been doing it for many years, and people have entrusted us on doing it, and they don't know exactly what happened. All they know is that there was another event, and it did affect this one, and it did affect our relationship. That's kind of like where they're at with it. Yeah, we haven't dove into all the mix. Like, really, I just want to get this fucking thing rescheduled and clear up whatever is due and just like move on.
Right.
Like, why make it any more fucking difficult? Like, bro,
Right.
like, we've been building up for this for many years, and like honestly, like, the layout was kind of perfect for what we wanted to do.
So,
yeah.
what do you say to the rumors that you're getting ready to set up kind of your own Epstein style setup in Colombia?
There's no Epstein set up or anything else. I think like,
You have to make that very clear that is bullshit.
right now we our biggest focus right now is getting everything settled, cleared, and what had happened, and making sure that the next steps is like, regrowing and rebuilding, from the ground up. But we can't do that until everything is handled and everything is clear as day on, what is finalized with the hotel, what's finalized across the board with all of our guests, and what's finalized with where we're going to be at with staff and everybody else. Because we haven't gotten to that point, and I think I'm very grateful that a lot of people have been patient with us as we've been dealing with it, and it's just been a wait and go. And I think we're getting pretty close on being able to get close on some decision making right now.
So odds are probably not focusing on throwing another CampInn or home base this year.
The whole thing needs to be contracted like a year out.
Yeah.
It makes it fucking difficult. Like,
you guys tried.
And it's 700 rooms. If we were to be at that same property, if we go to a smaller property, it's 400, 500 rooms. And right now, we're not in that position. And there is some due dates, deadlines that I would want to make the decision by. But right now, I think what's most important is making sure we clear up what happened with Labor Day weekend, and making sure that we get everything cleared from everything in November as well too. So, I think as long as we were patient with it and trust the process,
yeah,
that's all we could do right now.
Do you have anything you want to say directly to the home base community and or the CampInn community?
I've always had your back, and I always will, and I'm going to make sure that everything's made right, and that's how I've always been, all my life,
the whole time. All right. I mean, you let it out. I feel like if anybody had any questions about what was going on, what was happening, pretty much aired that out, cleared that up. Is there anything else you wanted to clear up, put up front, any random allegation you wanted to square away before we wrapped up?
I don't think there's like anything I need to really clear up, other than we're going to go through some obstacles. There's going to be some things that go on our next steps, and it's going to take time. We got to be patient. And, I've been in the longevity of this project for many years, and I'll continue to be that way. I'm in the long haul for this. I've always have been. And if it means that it takes 2 years, we take 2 years and we do it, because that's what means most to me than anything else.
Home base isn't done.
Home base isn't done. I am home base, brother.
Yeah, all right.
That's true.
We're gonna close on the I am home base line. I don't know. Do you want people finding you on social media? You're pretty off it right now, right? Or do you want to plug anything?
I'm chill right now, man.
Yeah.
Let us handle what we need to right now.
Yeah. So I would say make sure, if you're not following the home base Instagram, stay tuned for updates on that. It's not going to be something daily, as he literally just said, but you never know. Maybe a year up the road, he drops something cool you're already following. Make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, at SuttonSays Pod, on TikTok, Instagram, all that fun jazz. If you have anything you'd like to add on to this, or anything you want to address with Brian or me or anyone, feel free to let us know in the comments. I like to follow up on those on Instagram and everything like that. So If you were there, maybe you were on site, you had a good experience, that'd be sick to talk about. If you had a bad experience, we've heard about plenty of those. I'm all ears. You were telling me about some of the stuff that was going on site the day of. What was the wildest that you dealt with?
with Labor Day weekend?
Yeah.
Honestly, dealing with the guy,
The dude.
yeah, Miguel Sosa, who said he had a private jet and like said he was gonna cover the fucking bill, bro.
Yeah,
Like, you know, I kept on looking. I was talking to somebody, but I was like, man, have you seen the jet, bro? I was like,
yeah,
I think you should go on that jet, man. Let me know if it's there, because I don't know, man.
This dude was on acid and was just cosplaying as a billionaire, and was like, I'm gonna save this whole resort.
Yeah. I think there's about 4 different people that were attendees there that can vouch, that will tell you that they met him and they heard the same kind of BS too.
So what I got to do now is I got to find Miguel Sosa and I got to interview him.
Well, where is he?
And I got to see what the fuck was going on in there, Brody. Because he said his Cash App, hey, working my boy.
It's not like anything where, like, for me right now, I think our main focus is like all that stuff is behind us right now. It's what was pushed forward, you know.
All right, let's push forward. Stay positive. Drink your water. Don't be mean. Peace.
Long live Chief.